Hello everybody, my name is Raxef, and as you might know, the patch 7.3 notes for Legion were just released the other day, and what I'm going to do today is simply be going through those notes in a little bit more detail, so let's just get into it. Now the first major feature in patch 7.3 is of course Argos. Following recent events in the Broken Isles, a link has been created between Azeroth and Kil'jaeden's homeworld of Argos, bringing the Birding Legion closer than ever to destroying Azeroth. In order to stop them once and for all, Illidan and Velen are taking the war directly to the surface of Argos, where they hope to join forces with Illyria, Turelion, and the Army of the Light to launch an all-out assault on the Legion's primary base of operations. Board the Vindicar, a vessel that will serve as your mobile base of operations on Argos, as well as one of your few safe havens on the planet. As you explore Argos, you'll visit new locations across the planet, experiencing the epic conclusion to the Legion storyline and unlocking new world quests and other content along the way. Now, of course, what this first portion is saying is that all of the major content is going to be taking place on Argos. We do have a couple different zones that we might be visiting in the future, which I'll get into a little bit later, but for the majority of patch 7.3, we will be adventuring on Argos. We do have three major parts of Argos that we're going to be exploring, and we're going to be reaching those different parts via the Vindicar, which is, of course, the spaceship that we board in order to travel to Argos. And one of the major pieces of content that has been prevalent throughout Legion has been, of course, the World Quest, and that's no different for Argos. We're going to be venturing through these three main zones, and once we finish the storyline of that zone, we're going to be unlocking that zone's world quests, which will give us things like currency, 2 rewards for both our character and our class hall champions. The next major feature which this patch goes into are invasion points. Azeroth isn't the only world connected to this hostile place. While on Argos, you'll unlock the ability to enter the very portals the Burning Legion use to transport to other worlds. Once there, complete an event or defeat a boss to earn epic rewards. Now, how I view these invasion points is that they're sort of like a mix between a mini dungeon and a Legion invasion on the Broken Isles, as well as a little bit of scenario thrown in there. So you're going to be going through these invasion points, and you're going to be killing various mobs, and of course there's going to be a large boss at the end of these invasion points. And as you complete more and more quests and you go deeper into the story, these invasion points get harder and harder. And the big pull of these invasion points is that you're actually going to be getting gear that can only be acquired through completing these invasion points. I'm not 100% certain exactly what type of gear it is. Maybe it's another way to gear up outside of the dungeons. Maybe there's some invasion points where you get hidden artifact appearances. I'm almost positive that that will be a type of reward as well. But right now we just have to sit and wait. But I think that this is a very unique style of content that gives the Warcraft developers the chance to send the players to different settings all throughout not only Azeroth but throughout the universe as a whole. Maybe we'll be visiting a planet that we could possibly be visiting again in the future. We get to see a bit more of the effect that the Legion has on other worlds and sort of what they have in store for Azeroth. So I think the invasion points really help to bring to light exactly what kind of threat the Legion has towards the worlds that they conquer. So I'm actually really, really excited for invasion points. Of course, one of the largest pieces of content that's going to be coming in patch 7.3 is the new 5-man dungeon, the seat of the Triumvirate. Once the heart of the ancient Eridar civilization where Velen, Archimonde, and Kil'jaeden ruled their people, this temple has fallen to ruin. Return with Velen to retrieve an ancient relic of power and battle the darkness that has overtaken this sacred place in a new 5-person dungeon among the ruins of Makari on Argos, featuring 4 bosses. Zoral the Ascended. Zoral represents the Shadow Guard's first success at creating a void-infused broken whose mind has not fallen into madness. A renowned brawler in his past life, Zoral uses his newfound dark strength to empower his attacks and decimate his foes. Saprish. The ever-tactical Saprish deploys the forces of the Shadow Guard with calculated precision. Though a skilled commander and strategist, Saprish relishes taking a direct hand in battle. He turns his foes' weaknesses against them, leaving his vulnerable adversaries at the mercy of his voracious pets. Viceroy Nezar. Like others of his ilk, Viceroy Nezar is obsessed with harnessing the power of the void to serve his own ambitions. Drawn to the seat of the Triumvirate by the immense darkness emanating from deep within, Nezar will stop at nothing to claim it for his own. Given the Viceroy's experiments at infusing vessels with the power of shadow, the implications of what he might accomplish on Argos are dire indeed. Laura. When Velen and his followers fled Argos aboard the Genedar, the Naru Laura stayed behind to buy the Draenei time to escape. Kil'jaeden, enraged by this betrayal, ordered the wounded Naru sealed away in the seat of the Triumvirate. Over the long millennia that passed, Laura fell from light to void. Her elegant song of courage and hope became a shadowy dirge of despair, luring those seeking to lay claim to her power. One of the things I'm most excited for about this dungeon is that it starts introducing more of the concept of the void to the players. We've had a couple of brushes with it before throughout our adventures in Azeroth, but one of the things that really surprised me in coming to Argus and playing on the PTR is how much more of a presence of the void there is. And we of course know that the void is something that's completely separate from the demons of the Legion and from that fell corruption. So it's cool to see that there's this other shadowy faction that we admittedly don't know a ton about, but it certainly has a strong presence, and I definitely feel that with this new dungeon we get to see some interesting characters, some interesting character designs, but it's also Blizzard's way of, I feel, sort of hinting at us and gearing us up for what possibly is to come. Because while we are still focused on taking down the Legion in Argus, I think the Void is going to have a much, much stronger presence in the world of Warcraft once we finish with patch 7.3 and once we've dispatched the Legion. So that primarily is what I'm really, really excited for. Of course, the item level is going to be increased as well. In Heroic, the item level has been raised to 865, and in Mythic, the item level has been raised to 885, so you don't fall too far behind if you just hit level 110 and you just want to go straight to Argus. You'll still have the opportunity to get some good gear, but gearing aside, I'm just very, very excited for the story possibilities that this new presence of the Void really opens up, because I'm fairly certain that this will not be the last that we are seeing of anything having to do with the Void in the world of Warcraft. So along with these new major features, Blizzard is also updating a couple current features that are already in the game, and the first of those that I wanted to touch on is artifact customization. Harness the power of Argus to activate the Netherlight Crucible aboard the Vindicar, allowing you to augment your artifact relics. The Crucible can be used to strengthen and customize relics, increasing their raw power and allowing players to choose from a set of additional powers, including a second artifact trait to improve. Now, I touched on the Netherlight Crucible in my previous video when I covered Ian Hazzikostas' interview at Gamescom. What I love about the Netherlight Crucible is that it gives players the opportunity to customize their artifacts beyond what you normally would be able to do with, say, a gem or an enchant or even a new relic. And keep in mind that since the item level is going to be scaling up once we hit Argus, we're going to be getting new relics all the time from the quests, from the dungeons, and even from the new raid. So we're going to be slotting new relics into the Netherlight Crucible all the time, constantly getting new trees, and really figuring out which one best suits our playstyle. Of course, for those higher end Mythic Raiders, like I mentioned before, there is going to be that one tree which is the absolute best to get, and Mythic Raiders are going to be constantly farming relics till they get that absolute best tree. But for the general player base, I think having that option of choice and customization really gives that little bit of extra depth to the game that didn't necessarily need to be there, but it is a nice touch, particularly for those players who really relish in finding the builds that they like the best and really customizing how it is they use their character in combat. One thing that I think is a missed opportunity with these relic trees is the lack of cosmetic customization that could come with these relics and these new trees. I know that not everybody is hung up on customizing their character as much as, say, I am. I really love transmogging. I love hunting down rare pieces of gear if they fit a certain type of transmog that I'm planning. And I think adding minor customizations to these relics, whether it changes a spell effect or it changes an effect that appears around your character when you cast a spell. I think that having those types of those little tiny touches, they don't necessarily contribute to the combat of your character, which is of course what these trees will primarily be doing. But I think it would have been a nice touch or a little bit of nod to add those aesthetic choices to the player. Of course, with the new dungeon comes the updates to the current dungeons in Legion. Loot dropped in normal, heroic, and mythic dungeons is now increased in power by 20 item levels. Normal will have an item level of 845, heroic will have an item level of 865, and mythic will have an item level of 885. Furthermore, Mythic Keystone rewards scale up to a maximum of item level 915 in the dungeon and item level 935 in the weekly chest, both capped at Mythic Keystone 10. This cap-in will increase to Mythic Keystone 15 at a future date. The difficulty of heroic and mythic dungeons has increased to reflect the improved rewards. Normal dungeon difficulty is unchanged. So I know I talked a bit about item level increase when I was going over the new dungeon, but I think it's important to note that this change is not only happening with the new dungeon, but it's going to be happening to all dungeons throughout Legion. So once again, if you have a new character that just hit 110, or if you're interested in rolling an alt, it will not be that hard to catch up to the current item level necessary to run, say, the heroic seat of the Triumvirate, or even further on if you want to get into the normal and Taurus raid or LFR and Taurus raid. It's going to be that much easier to catch up in the necessary item level because the increased item level gear will be available throughout all of the dungeons in Legion, not just the new dungeon. And how could I forget pet battles? Venture through the raids of Cataclysm to find new battle pets for the much anticipated achievement Raiding with Leashes 5, Cutaclysm. You'll boast about finding a host of mostly elemental pets when you revisit Blackwing Descent, Bastion of Twilight, Throne of the Four Winds, Firelands, and Dragonsoul. Advanced scouts have reported spotting 18 legendary boss pets scattered about Argos, and these miniature monstrosities have otherworldly special abilities that the denizens of Azeroth have never seen before, such as the slightly terrifying Greater Apocalypse ability. Additionally, more than a dozen different capturable wild pets are said to be found on Argos, as well as a number of pets that can only be obtained via reward items and the new Family Fighter achievement. Now, I have to confess, I don't think I've ever really done a pet battle. I think back in either Mists of Pandaria or Warlords of Draenor, I might have done a couple because I was interested in checking them out, but I never really got into them. And quite frankly, not doing pet battles is something that I've kind of regretted. But I don't know if really leveling up a pet to, I think it's level 25 now, is ultimately worth it. Is it a huge time sink? Are the rewards that you get from pet battling worth the time that you put into leveling up your pets? I'm actually really curious about this, so let me know in the comments section down below if you think it might be a good idea for someone who's ultimately never really done pet battles to take them up in this new patch and level up a team of pets. And last but not least, we have professions. Professional development turns a new page on Argos, with new gathering nodes for herbalism and mining, new material types for skinning and tailoring, and a new soulbound regent, Primal Sargerite. Look for new items that can be created by crafters, as well as a new shoulder enchant that provides materials specific to Argos. Every day, visit Akul Riverhorn, Corbin, Elysia of the Waters, Impus, Keeper Rene, or Shaleth to earn reputation and explore the new rewards they have to offer, and ultimately earn the Fisher Friend of the Isles achievement to unlock a new alternate appearance for your Underlight Angler artifact fishing pole. So fishing and material gathering in general is something that I actually do quite a lot. I do raid pretty frequently, and I do like to be the person who brings the lavish Suramar feast to the pickup group raid, and everybody is so thankful to that person because they brought the really expensive feast in order to give us ourselves the best fighting chance for the boss. So I'm actually really interested to see what these new crafting materials are on Argos. They didn't mention anything really in regards to new food that you can cook, because that's ultimately what I use most of my crafting materials for. If I get anything extra, then I normally just sell it on the auction house. So I'm really interested. I'm assuming if we have new fishing spots on Argos, although I think it is kind of weird if we would have fishing spots on a completely broken planet. But that's besides the point. If we have new fishing spots on Argos or new herbs that we could gather, surely that means we must have new food or new potions that we can craft for the raids. So that's the last bit of the puzzle that I'm not 100% certain on, but I think it will be interesting to see what they have in store for us regarding professions. I think perhaps it might be reasonable to assume that they would throw in some new legendaries on Argos, some new craftable legendaries for blacksmithing or leatherworking or tailoring to go along with these new material types that we're going to be finding on Argos, but ultimately we're just going to have to wait and see. So I think that's going to do it for this video. If you liked it, then of course give it a thumbs up. If you have anything to say, if you think I should absolutely try pet battles, or if you think I should absolutely stay away from pet battles, then let me know in the comment section down below. I'd also be interested in hearing what you think about these particular changes. Do you think that there's going to be enough content in patch 7.3 on top of the raid, which we didn't even cover this patch because it's not going to be released yet in the first week? Or do you think that starting off when patch 7.3 is released, there's going to be enough content for everyone to do? I'm really interested in hearing what the community has to say on that. And lastly, if you like my channel and you like the types of videos I do, then of course feel free to subscribe. With that being said, I hope to see you guys in the next video. See you later!